I mean, I will know what noises chickens make, obviously, having grown up with a gaggle of chickens and rabbits and things, but no, nothing like that comes. It will be, again, the potential of, I know what noises it makes, but it hasn't made it yet.
Okay.
I know what defines a chicken, but it's not here yet.
Do you want to be part of the podcast? Go to shanesbraindomain.com and click on the Aphantasia section. There you will find a question or prompt and an opportunity to contribute your thoughts and experiences. Simply record and submit your response, and you could be featured on a future episode. Aphantasia is a condition characterized by an inability to visualize mental images in one's mind. If you have just discovered that you or someone you love has aphantasia, or if you're just fascinated by the subject in general and love learning more about it, you are in the right place. The Discovering Your Mind podcast delves into all aspects of the mind's eye, including aphantasia, hyperphantasia, and everything in between. Welcome to the Discovering Your Mind podcast, brought to you by shanesbraindomain.com. I am your host, Shane Williams, also known as Shane's Brain. And today we are talking with the one and only Kristin Warry, who joined us on our Outside the Norm episode. And I wanted to have her back because she's a very interesting person with a lot of interesting things to say. And so welcome back, Kristin. It's good to have you on the show.
Nice to be back again.
All right, very cool. Well, why don't you just start out with telling us a little bit about what you do or what you did for a living?
Well, I had a bit of a random career. I started off in polymer engineering and factory systems. So I started as a technical specialist in bubble wrap. The stuff you pop, someone has to make it, and it was me. And I was the only female on the shop floor. And then I gradually moved away from that when manufacturing went down the pan at the end of the 90s in Britain. I moved into IT. It was just one of those random things. A friend of mine said, don't rush looking for another job. Come and help me do some systems integration at one of the local authorities in Britain. So I went along. We're over a pint, as you do, Sunday afternoon. I picked up the software in under an hour. And I went in as a consultant on the Monday. And it was using geographic information systems software. So Google Maps, Google Earth. Everyone knows that now, but back then, all we had was the Ordnance Survey maps, and it was just as people were starting to add data to their own maps in local authorities widely. And people would ask me how I did what I did. Why was I so good at it when I'd only been doing it months? And I realized that my brain worked like the software. I would intuitively know how to structure a question when you've got this random data with a geographic or spatial component. And even people in the industry were just confused at how I did what I did. I used to drive my team round the twist because they would ask me how to analyze something. And I would just reel off a 15-stage query process off the top of my head as fast as they could write. I never found a spatial data query that I couldn't answer, only ones that I didn't actually have the data for.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you more about that in a little bit. But for now, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about what else you like to do, your hobbies, your interests?
Well, I'm retired. I had to retire on health grounds, unfortunately, in my 40s. And I spend most of my time doing crafts, creating, knitting, crochet. I do tend to take things a bit too extreme. You wouldn't think you could take knitting that far of an extreme. But I ended up within a year or so with 5 knitting machines and restoring a Victorian sock machine in cast iron.
Awesome.
But I live here in the wilds of Wiltshire with my dogs. I still sometimes use my IT to help out some local charities and things. It's mostly chilling and creating these days.
Sounds like living the good life to me.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Very cool. In this episode, we will be referring to what we call the Apple Graph. If you would like to view the Apple Graph to play along and better understand what we're talking about, you can find it on shanesbraindomain.com in the Aphantasia and Beyond section. If you are unable to view the Apple Graph for whatever reason, it is a graph divided into 6 sections. In the number 6 section, there is a very detailed image of a red apple. In the number 5 section, it is the same image but with less detail. Number 4 is still in color but has less detail and more basic shapes instead of detailed hues and gradients. Number 3 is the less detailed apple but in gray tones without the color. Number 2 is a simple outline of the apple. And number 1 is blank, indicating no visualization whatsoever. This is called aphantasia. Just play along with me here for a minute, if you will. I would like you to visualize a red apple in your mind.
Okay.
Take a look at that graph and let me know which one of those best represents what you saw in your mind's eye.
Number 1.
All right. So you have aphantasia. Can you tell us a little bit about how you first discovered it? Just kind of tell your story.
Yeah, well, I'd always known my brain was a bit weird, but I also knew I was really terrible at recognizing people. I found out through a call for a research study that this is known as prosopagnosia, face blindness. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example of how bad I am. I was in a meeting with someone at work, just in the Starbucks, literally 20 meters away from the door to our building where we worked. And I was meeting this new guy who had a new IT problem that he wanted me to help him with. And I was there with him for a good couple of hours. And I knew I would never remember who he was. So my trick was to get them to email me after the meeting with the go-ahead to start the work on their behalf. So I then had their name in writing. Anyway, I knew I was bad, but I got back to the office after this particular meeting. Obviously, I'm back in the office within minutes. The rest of the team were bored, so they asked me where I'd been and who I'd been with. And I said, John from education. Which John? I don't know. Or was it John this or John that? I don't know. It's like, well, come on, did he have hair? I said, I don't know. And at that moment, I got what I like to call the look. The look that says, you have just said something that is so far outside of my list of potential answers to this question that I have no idea where to continue this conversation.
Right.
So, knowing I was really bad at this, I was quite surprised when I saw this study. So I went along to Reading University, middle of the south of England, in the big bit in the middle, and did this university study where they ruled out object recognition by trying to get me to remember cars that I'd seen on. Then they ruled out gender recognition, where they'd morphed a standard male and a standard female face, getting it more and more male or female. And then they did face recognition. And I was very good at gender recognition, average at object recognition, but completely terrible at facial recognition. So that explained why I was this bad. So, as you do when you're retired, I was sat there and I was watching a video on prosopagnosia, and this YouTube video just popped up entitled, I have aphantasia, you might too. And I watched the video and went, oh, well, there we go then. So the next thing I did is I'm running upstairs like, Dave, that's my husband. Dave, do you see stuff when you think of stuff? Fortunately, my husband is used to random existential questions of an afternoon. So, yes, I very soon discovered that I indeed had aphantasia. And then as I watched more videos, I realized that I had nothing going on. I had no sounds except tinnitus. I had no images. I didn't even have a conscious thought process. I think by speaking. It's really bizarre to have lived half a century and to have not realized that visualizing things isn't a metaphor.
Right. Okay. So about how long ago was that?
That was about 5 years ago. We're talking around about lockdown era. Okay. And it actually led me to go on and realize that I even had autism as well. So the finding out that I had the face blindness was what led to all this discovery of just how truly weird my brain is.
As I like to say, truly beautifully unique and wonderful.
I am one of the great British eccentrics, and I own this well.
That's what I like about you. I'm the same way. I'm just kind of a weird guy, and a lot of people don't really get me. And so I was kind of drawn to you because of that. You just say things in an interesting way and you have an interesting perspective. So I really enjoy that. I want to talk about something you just mentioned where you don't really have any forethought. And I really resonate with that. And that's something where I feel like I've been quite a bit different from a lot of other people with aphantasia that I've talked to. And I didn't quite know how to explain it, but I'm very similar where there is not a whole lot of forethought going on before I talk. And I recently talked to a guy about this. I said that a lot of times I am surprised by what I say, and I will sometimes just crack myself up because I had no idea that I was going to say that, right? Can you expand on that a little bit? Is that kind of the same thing you're having where it's just a free-for-all?
No, but I also combine it with SDAM. So I often see that I've surprised someone or upset someone and then have no idea what I said. I only know the gist of the conversation. So I'll give you an example. So at GIS mapping, I was due to chair a meeting, my first meeting as chair. All the technical specialists together. We're a fairly neurodiverse group compared to the normal population, as a lot of people who work in data are. So not only did I manage to turn up an hour and a half late for the day because I got lost twice, despite this being a mapping specialist meeting, I then managed to start the meeting, meaning to say something like, I was cleaning the data for the streets in this local authority. What I actually managed to say was when I was working on the streets, which I don't know about over there, but over here that means prostitution.
Right.
And so they all just fell about laughing. And it just became one of those in jokes at the meetings, they would just wait for me to drop some absolute clanger of a phrase, and they would do sweepstakes as to how late I'd be. But yes, it can get you into big trouble. Fortunately, I seem to be a fairly inoffensive person, as long as I don't think someone's being a complete idiot.
All right, very cool. So let's talk a little bit more about this GIS, Geographic Information Systems. You said that your brain works very much like that program. When you say that, and you're talking about, Google Maps, Google Earth, I would just assume that somebody who says their brain works like that would be a visual person. You'd think. So can you just expand on that a little bit more and try and explain exactly what's going on in your head that makes it like that?
So when I think of something, I get an awareness of the data. about that thing. It's a bit like if you think, I've got to phone my mum, you don't think, what does a phone look like, or what does your mum look like? You only need those two words and that you have the information associated. So I realized that I was able to develop this method. I associate words and keywords in a kind of mind map situation, but it ends up with more dimensions than there actually are. So what you're doing is you're taking something like an Excel spreadsheet. You got like mum, dad, home, dogs, and each of those lines of the spreadsheet has a place. So what I'm doing is I can only add new data into my brain if it has a place in that matrix of data. And that matrix I sense around me, but it's always north up. I don't know why. It's zoomable. So I would think of where the village where I live. I know where certain people live in that village. And I'm going like this and I'm pointing. That's the direction of my mate, Sally. I get this awareness. And then if I want to think of where someone else lives, it'll zoom in and I'm looking further out. So I have this scale map that I attach my data and context to. And it very much reflects why I was very good at geographic information, but not maps. The picture wasn't important to me, but what I did with the data was. So I've spoken to a couple of others like me, and we just have this sense of it's bigger than us. I have this sense of all these packets of data, and when you want to query it, it's like some insane Rubik's Cube that instantly realigns to show you the path for the question through the data. And it's linked in with face blindness, so I will recognize my neighbour if he's in his garden, but I wouldn't recognize him if I bumped into him in town. Because if I'm looking for contextually a guy around this age in this garden, then I will say, okay, that's probably him. It's very, very... the mind matrix and the multidimensional Rubik's Cube is actually the explanation I came out with before I knew about aphantasia. I just get this sense of I know what I know and it's all structured. If you give me some new data, like hello, Shane's brain, you have to be interesting enough for my brain to say, okay, we'll make a new data node for this guy. So I ended up with this mad thing at school where I was highly intelligent. I was off the top of all the IQ test things. And I was getting 95% plus in maths and sciences and under 5% in history and literature because it was all just random facts that just didn't stick.
Wow. That is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
My brain works like this. Imagine you're watching the TV and it's the last episode of your favourites. I mean, we're talking like series finale of Stranger Things here, okay? We're talking all your attention is on the telly. And then suddenly your brain goes, phone mum. And you go, okay, know how to do that. Log it, carry on watching the telly. That's how my brain tells me new information whilst the TV programme is reality. So my whole life is observing reality. And then every now and then my brain goes, hello, and makes me say something because it's thought of something. And then it goes away again like a little minion.
Okay. So as far as like all of this data that you're storing, you call it kind of a sense, but is there any like storage type system? Like where does all this exist? Can you tell where it is and how it's stored? Is it in alphabetical order? You know what I mean? Is there any?
My best guess is that I have somehow completely ramped up my semantic memory.
Okay.
Your memory that allows you to categorize and remember facts and figures. For everything from a person to a place, it's all down to facts and figures with me. So I will remember a sentence about something, and that is all the information I have about it. So like yesterday we had fish and chips for tea. And then if that was the memory, I would be able to extrapolate, because that's attached to the knowledge of the home. It's attached to the knowledge of the food. So it's all these bits of data, which I believe I'm just using as best I can in lieu of any episodic memory or a working episodic memory.
Okay. So does it feel like there's rooms or compartments in your mind?
More structure than separate compartments.
Okay.
So I would bring the right part of the structure to the fore, but then it shrinks back into the background. So if I was writing a presentation or a report, I would just go on and get on with life. And then randomly through the week, my brain would say, there's this sentence, there's that word, there's this picture you need to create. And then I'd get to a reasonable amount of time before the deadline, and I would just write the entire thing from start to finish, dictating it to myself. There's no, like you see authors writing this bit and that bit and that. I'm just no, start to finish. And that also seems to be a theme with some of the people I've spoken to.
So when you get those, when your brain tells you these random things, do you need to write those down so you don't forget them, or are they just stored there? Mostly
they're just stored there. If it's a really good way of phrasing something, I might make a note, or if I'm in the middle of doing something where I can't concentrate to log it fully. So like you're just running out to go and drive to the shops or something, I might make a quick note if it's important. But usually no, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And it's a very, very definite line between the two.
Wow. So is there a process? You said if I log it fully, is there a process of doing that? How do you make sure something is going to stick?
I can't. It just has to be interesting or funny enough for my brain to go, yeah, that's good. We'll keep that.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay. So
a lot of the time I am like the weird and random facts person.
Right. Because if it sticks, then it's there. It's there. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have the phrase search your mind. What does that phrase mean to you? And do you feel like you can do that? And how does that work?
People say that they go blank in exams sometimes, but that is my normal state. My normal state is sat observing or talking. If I try to sit down and think about something, I might as well just be watching one of those old tellies with just static on the screen.
Okay.
There's nothing I can do to force an idea to the forefront.
Okay. So if you are in an exam and there's a question and it's something you know, do you have to try and find that, oh, I know this, but I got to remember it? Or is it just there?
Nope. I know it or I don't.
Wow.
Okay. I did an entrance exam back when I was 16. A local boys' school had decided they were going to let in a few girls as an experiment. So I took the entrance exam, and on the physics exam, I got to this question, and I just knew I didn't know it. So I just wrote on the paper, I'm very sorry, but I'm afraid we haven't covered this subject yet. I answered a couple more questions and got to another one and just wrote, I'm sorry, we haven't covered this subject yet either. And when I got to the last one that I couldn't do, I just wrote, nor this.
So awesome. All right.
I don't think I don't have a fear of upsetting people or how these things are going to be taken. I'm just like, I don't know this. I really don't know this. I'm not going to sit here and try. I'm just going to tell them.
Right. That's very cool. All right. How do people react when you tell them about aphantasia?
With a lot of consternation. I mean, we're British. We don't talk about how we think and how we feel.
Right.
You're supposed to just get on with life and stiff up a lip. Mostly, though, people are fascinated. If they've never heard about it before, they tend to be very mind blown. I had a new chiropractor recently, and we got talking because it turns out she's a very, very vivid visualizer, and she sees all the bones and where they are and out of place. And it just completely blew her mind. And the devil in me does like to do that to people.
All right. Okay. If I ask you to think about a chicken in your mind, can you describe what is happening?
Yeah, I'd be thinking the chickens I know are the bantams that we had when we were kids. If you know bantams, like mini chickens. Okay. And then you start thinking fact. So like, oh yeah, the dog used to sit outside the chicken run, and there was the vicious one who used to attack us, and it would be bits and packets of data, because that's what I've stored.
Okay. So does any of that data contain specific things that might be there if you were visual? Like, was there movement in the data? Was the chicken running around? Was the dog running around? Was the chicken white or gray or blue? Was there color? Was there dimension?
When I think of something, so say I'm thinking of one of my dogs, I will sense a hole in the air, the shape of the object that's filled with air. And I can trace the outline of that air with my eyes. If it's the size of something I know well, it will be the real size. If it's something that I don't know so well, I'll see it the size that I would have seen it on the telly.
You're seeing air? You're seeing the shape of air?
The shape. So you'll see, like, there's the back of the dog and the tail and the legs and then the chest and the front legs. I'm not seeing that. I sense it. I do also get a sense of movement, very strongly linked to my memories. So my husband's madly looking for his glasses a little while ago. He said, have you seen my glasses? And I just went like that. That was my memory of where his glasses had gone. So then I had to work out, well, why might I have seen his glasses doing that? And then I thought, he's dropped them. And then from where I usually sit, that means it was probably over there. I wonder if that, and they were behind the chair.
Wow.
I'd seen them fall off, but I didn't remember then. I'd got immediately distracted by the dog, so I'd forgotten to say to him, don't lose your glasses. I will sense movement. I think a lot of that is because I've had lifelong vertigo. I had whooping cough when I was very, very young. So I've always got a sense of movement and things moving around me. And I think I tune into that and join that with the movement of the memory.
Okay. So all of it's there. It's just like behind a curtain or something. It's like behind the scenes. Is that a good way to describe it or not?
Well, not even so much that as more a potential. So it's what the potential could be for a dog. So a dog is
Okay.
going to be something that's that shape. I don't get as far as thinking of colour, which is strange because I have exceptionally good colour and pattern recognition. Even though I can't re-see the colours and patterns, I used to be able to look around the office at work and I could tell you where at least half the women had bought their clothes from by the patterns of the fabric. It's
Wow.
all still held texturally.
You touched on some of these other senses. I just want to talk about those real quick. So if you're thinking of the chicken, can you hear it at all? If it made a sound, could you hear it in any way?
No. I mean, I will know what noises chickens make, obviously, having grown up with a gaggle of chickens and rabbits and things. But no, nothing like that comes. It will be, again, the potential of, I know what noises it makes, but it hasn't made it yet.
Okay.
I know what defines a chicken, but it's not here yet. I would obviously be expecting, if you say I'm going to hand you a chicken, it might not even have feathers because it might be an oven-ready chicken.
Right.
So it's just,
how does your mind distinguish between those two things? Does it think about, oh, it could be this kind of chicken or that kind of chicken?
no, not really. I had a heated discussion with someone online who was trying to say that some of these aphantasia things were a misunderstanding. She was saying, when you think of an apple, you're thinking there and it's a green apple. And I was like, why is it green? Could be the golden apple of Eris, the goddess of spite.
Right.
It could be a pink lady that's even pink inside of it. Why would you allocate green at that point? However, what I'd be doing is looking out for something that has the defining characteristics of an apple. It's like looking for a person in the crowd. To me, what I'm searching the crowd for is a look of recognition. I'm not looking for much beyond a couple of textual descriptors. So if I was looking for you in a crowd, I'd be looking for someone with a distinctive beard, who, when they sees me, hopefully has a look of recognition. So then I know I've got the right person.
Right. Okay. That's a very cool description. So I think I understand what you mean now by potential. Is you're not zeroing in on specifics. Like it's just wide open. It could be anything.
Yes.
Okay. I like that a lot. Things are pleasant in the little town of Quiet until Mel Beezer discovers he's allergic to his own sneezes. Blending wit and humor with lively imagery, The Endless Achoo is a delightfully clever tale, available on shanesbraindomain.com and Amazon. All right. What about this one? In general, when you close your eyes, what do you see?
There's this thing I found called closed eye hallucinations. There's a good Wikipedia page on it. It's got pictures, but basically I see what they call as level 1, which is sparkles. I close my eyes, I've got a black background and there's white and red, just moving static sparkles. If I move my eyes quickly, I see a reflection of my iris on the lids, but
Really?
But no, I don't see anything at all unless it's hypnagogic imagery just before I go to sleep.
Right.
Which is very handy because that allows me to say that is the difference. Of course, as I said on the previous podcast, I thought when I was a kid that was me going insane and seeing things. Right. So I suppressed it. But I have had only a few times a clear image from hypnagogic imagery. So I know that I'm not seeing things. I know what it is like to see things, and I don't.
Right. Okay. So if you're not hearing anything in your mind, Would you say that you have an inner monologue or an inner voice or anything like that?
I don't need a critic.
Okay. So if you can, then define a thought. What is a thought to you?
It's nebulous. It's unformed until I speak it. If I really need to sort of say rehearse something or write an email where I need words to come out of the nebulous data field, then I will, like as in a report, I will dictate it to myself. So I end up in this weird situation where when I'm on my own, in the car, in the bath of an evening, and I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to my brain more than myself, but my brain is also me. So there's kind of two sides to this conversation, but I am physically speaking both sides. When I'm in public, I tend to keep it down. It's subvocal, so just my vocal cords work. I have a sense of what I would have said. It's independent of breath, but simply that miming movement. Otherwise, I spend most of my time in just being. I am the epitome of mindfulness. I have no distracting thoughts, no distracting images. I'm wholly present. And it's not as relaxing as they make out.
Right. I'm very similar. I'm resonating with a lot of what you're saying. It just sounds like you're maybe just a step farther than me in some of that, but help me understand if I understand right. So a lot of people talk about, having conversations in their head. You kind of described that a little bit, but it was more reality based for you, right? It was not really in your head. It's like you're actually speaking it. And if you can't actually speak it, then you can still feel that kind of vocal cord sensation where it's still more in real life than it is in some distant or mind space or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, the Reddit group that I started, Silent Minds, for people who don't have a sound in their head, we seem to split into 3 groups. About a third I've spoken to, as I do, mostly it's just nebulous thinking, but they will form a word. Some use their tongue, some use their vocal cords, but it's and we call it subvocalization. Then there's about another third who have worded thought, where they're aware of the words, but there's no sound. And then there's another third that we don't have the vocabulary for yet.
Okay, that's very interesting. So among these people, and I would count myself as one of those people as well, do you feel like talking to yourself is a form of coping with that? Like, do you find yourself talking to yourself out loud?
Oh, gosh, yes. It's just as well I'm not having an affair. My husband would know about it within seconds.
Right. Yeah, I do that too. I feel like it's more real. It's more substance if I say it, if I speak it out to myself. It becomes more. It's a way to solidify my thoughts into.
Do you find you're very observational?
I would say in some cases, yes, and in some cases, no. In just like normal, nonchalant stuff, I'm not very observant, but in the more deeper, more meaningful hints and clues that people give or the things that are going on around, yeah, I would say I'm very observant in that way.
Yeah, I very much hit the stereotype of someone with ADHD, which was the only thing I was diagnosed with from a very young age, in that I'm noticing everything. I'm not saying I will remember everything, but if something's out of kilter, I'll notice it. I'm also incredibly sensitive to vibration. my first job in the bubble wrap where I worked in the factory, the first time I did it, they thought I was nuts. And I think this comes with the subvocalization. I'm very aware of this vibration in my throat. I called my boss over and told him that the machine was rattling. And he just looked at me as if I was insane, because we were in a 100 decibel environment with hearing protection. But I was so insistent that this machine was rattling that he gave in and said to the engineers, not to do anything special, but next time the machine went down, could they just have a look? And sure enough, the bearing was on its last legs and was about to go badly. And we saved the machine from having a quite expensive repair job if it had all crashed and burned. So they soon learned that if I said something was rattling, there was something to check out. And I think that sense of the vibration is down to not having the sounds in my head. I'm recognizing that instead.
Right. That's very interesting. So you talked a little bit about this, but can you not think of anything?
Oh, yeah. Like, I can sit there and just do. Have you heard of Hurlburt's work? They've done a lot of work on modes of thinking. Mm-hmm. And they say a lot of people spend a lot more time actually not thinking than they think they do. Really? And because they did this thing where people would get an alarm go off, and then they had to write down what they'd been thinking about at the time when the alarm went off. So obviously you got your mix of visualization, you got your earworms, you got all your normal things, but you've also got people who said, well, I wasn't thinking of anything, I was just doing some cleaning. Just going into that Zen mode. And I think this is where a lot of my attitude comes from, is I can go in and be active and participate, but then I can just go away and I can just switch off and be silent and just observe.
Yeah, same here. So in your email to me, you said something about not being able to drown out your thoughts. Can you explain that?
Oh, yeah. I'd heard this phrase when I read books, like people wanting to drown out their thoughts. And it just didn't make sense. Some of these things people say, you only realize after you've found out about realizing you don't have a vocal thought in your head. That, oh my God, some people could actually just sing a song in their head and disguise other things. But of course, if you don't have an inner monologue or intrusive thoughts, I suppose it's not so bad not being able to drown anything out.
Right. All right. So you told me earlier that when you think about a chicken, you can kind of get some ideas about maybe some movement or the shape of things. Does that happen when you read it all? Like if they're talking about a character, can you get kind of a sense of what they might look like? Or does any of that happen, or you're mainly focused just on what's happening?
Yeah, I'm mainly concentrating on the actual feel of what's happening and the interplay between it. I don't like things that are overly descriptive, and that does seem to be quite a common theme amongst a lot of people with aphantasia, is it just gets too flowery and too descriptive, and it's like, come on, just get on with the story. I want the story.
Okay. What about the phrase counting sheep? What does that mean to you?
Oh, that was a nightmare. Because I could imagine the sheep. I could imagine the movement of the sheep, and they'd start going over the gate. And then some of them would start going back, and they'd all get muddled up, and I couldn't count them, and I couldn't keep track of that many sheep. And I'd just be more awake then and annoyed.
Okay.
Of course, you didn't realize at the time I wasn't actually seeing sheep, but I got the sense of the sheep, and I could get the sense of the sheep jumping over the gate. But then they started going back, and then started going over in 3s and 4s, and I couldn't count them.
Oh, wow. So even though there's no visual, you still had all those details of this sheep and these many sheep.
Yeah, because I had the air shapes and the movement and the sense of size. Wow. Usually the gate was on its own, though. And they'd go round the gate to get round and jump over again. So that was annoying.
Yeah, that is so interesting. These specific differences. We both have aphantasia, but I have nothing like that. Like, to me, I would describe counting sheep as nothing. Nothing's happening. I don't know what this means. What am I supposed to be doing? That's my experience. Where you're experiencing it. It's happening. It's just not happening visually.
Well, I think this is why I was always described as someone who had very good powers of visualization, because I'm really good at getting the right color, the right shape, the right size. I could tell you precisely if something would fit in the boot of my car. So I go to IKEA, get a bookcase. I'm like, yeah, that'll fit. And then you find that it's literally an inch shorter than the inside of my car. It just fitted.
Right.
So, yeah, I do have this sense, but I think we all have to think, and we all have to bring those thoughts out in the real world. And I think those of us who don't have those primary crutches of sight and sound will either dismiss these sayings or work out our own way of doing it.
So you use the word imagine there. I could imagine the sheep. So let's talk about those words. Like, if I say to you, picture it or visualize it or imagine it, do those words mean different things to you, or they kind of all mean the same thing?
No, I would just get a sense of the potential of a sheep. I've heard some people describe it as the knowing. You say right. Sheep, my brain goes, I know what a sheep is. I'm prepared for more information on this sheep. To me, it is calling a sheep to the forefront of my knowledge.
Very good. All right. Let's talk about these dreams of yours real quick. So your dreams are visual, right?
Oh, yeah, very. Full color, sound, but I don't see human faces.
Okay. They're just blank?
So, no, I usually would be beside them or hugging them, or I would be talking to them on the phone, or they'd be behind me. Okay.
So the not seeing faces, do you think that has any correlation with your face blindness?
I do, definitely. And on the prosopagnosia forums, I've heard other people say, some people say that the faces in their dreams are blank. Some people say that they're just an average face. I think it has got a lot to do with it. You're just recalling a man's face or a woman's face or a dog.
Right. Okay, so you said you see in your dreams, you hear in your dreams. What about those other senses? Can you smell, taste, and touch in your dreams?
I don't think I can smell or taste, and I don't think I can touch. Things are happening, and I get emotions in my dreams very strongly. My husband doesn't like it when I wake him up screaming because the cannibal fairies have broken in. But no, okay. I think it's more like a movie.
Okay. Can you tell if your dreams are in first person or third person?
They're almost always in third person.
Okay. So like you're watching a movie. Okay.
It is very cinematic.
Okay. So it doesn't feel like you're in it per se, more like you're watching it.
It feels like I'm taking part, but it is reeling off in front of me. I suppose if I said it was more like an IMAX than a standard film.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's around me. It's not just in front of me looking down like some godlike being. I'm in
Okay.
it, as part of it, but I am viewing it and experiencing it in that way.
Okay. So let's talk about memory. If you want to recall a memory, how does that manifest in your mind?
Well, instantly, I either have the data or I don't. If you ask me to remember a specific day or something, because I have very poor autobiographical memory, a lot of it would be extrapolation. So
Okay.
let's say I know that I went shopping last weekend, and I will know where I went shopping and what I bought. But it's only through regularly going shopping that I have an awareness of the layout of the shops and where I went there. So I would very quickly go back into my overview and be seeing what I did in the context of where I did it.
Okay. Does it ever feel like you're reliving the memory?
Oh, gosh, no.
Okay.
No, it's purely the data of what happened.
Can you tell if your memories are in first person or third person, or is that not a thing?
Well, no, it's just data.
Just data. Okay.
I mean, as I mentioned to you earlier, I unfortunately lost my father only a couple of weeks ago. And already but factually, my father died. This is how he died. This was the cause. He was in that room. There's nothing else tied to it.
Not even
Those
emotional?
facts. No. Occasionally, something will catch me by surprise. Like I'll think, oh, that would be nice to send him in an email to cheer him up. And then I might feel a bit sad. And then it's gone again. And I think this is why they've found that people with aphantasia, particularly all sensory aphantasia, have a reduced capacity for stress and trauma. As not only are we not envisaging future threats, as we sort of touched on earlier, we're also not reliving in the same way bad experiences. That said, some people do get PTSD with it. Some people in the horrible situation of only getting emotional flashbacks with no other connecting factor or sense. And I can see that would be pretty scary if you're just suddenly terrified and aren't sure why.
Right. Do you feel like your memories are accurate?
Generally, yeah. I'm not inhumanly accurate. I tend to be very certain of the stuff I've got in my head. So you have to give me new data to make me change my mind. But what I do know tends to be very accurate, but I can't memorize things very easily. So I can't, back to reading books, I don't remember all what's just been said in the conversation I've just read, but I remember that those two characters fell out, for example.
All right. What are your thoughts on current research into aphantasia and what needs more study?
Well, I'm obviously going to say that anuralia needs more study, but I also very much understand that they had to start somewhere. I mean, when they named aphantasia, they had 20 people, half of whom had lost it through mental trauma, half had lost it through like a stroke or a physical brain trauma. And so they knew they'd lost the powers of visualization. And this was only 10 years ago. They had no knowledge of us congenitals, people born with aphantasia, until they published, and something like 15,000 people sent them an email going, hang on a minute, you mean the rest of humanity is walking around hallucinating?
Right.
I'm talking to my husband and he's driving and I'm like, hang on a minute. We're listening to an audiobook. Are you watching pictures while you're driving? He's like, yes. So that's me freaking out in the passenger seat. It's like, you're hallucinating and you're driving. He's like, yeah, but it just kind of takes less preference. I'm like, I'm not happy with this. This is not good.
Yeah, it's wild to think about.
But yeah, the aphantasia, as we know, it's opened up a lot of corridors for inquiry into how the mind and how the memory works. For example, severely deficient autobiographical memory. The definition of that used to be that if you don't have a working episodic memory, as we don't, because we can't pull the pictures up to review them, although there's lots of other types of memory we can use, our episodic memory is very poor or non-existent. And now they found out that about half the people with aphantasia aren't affected by a poor memory. So now they've got to completely redefine it and work out, well, what does cause it then? So some of these things, you've got to start somewhere.
Right.
And so you've got this build up where they're concentrating more in the UK on actual vision and imagination, whereas there's another group doing a lot of research in Australia about what the different sensory deficits in imagination. But at the moment, it's only aphantasia that's being done in great detail. I'll tell you one thing I'd love to see. Have you seen those things where they put people into an MRI and it's managed to draw the image they were thinking of? They've looked using the functional MRI imagery, and it seems that our memory centre's activated, but it doesn't reach the visual cortex. So somewhere along that line, the image has stopped. And I so want them to stick someone with aphantasia in that machine and see if the image of something comes up or not. Or is this on a spectrum? And then once they've started to find that out more, obviously I'd like them to apply it to the lack of other senses, like the sense of sound and smell and what have you. They say they've found almost every combination of deficits. Like some people can see images but not hear sounds. It's
it's all over the map. I've, just in my little bit of research here where I just bring anybody and everybody on and just ask them these questions. Yeah, it's all over the place. There's no one thing, some people have all of the senses, but other people, they visualize, but they don't have the other senses at all. And it's just, or they have this one, but not that one. It's just all over the place.
Yeah. I remember talking to someone online and they were saying that their partner is a chef who can taste food and then in their imagination add different spices to decide which ones to add.
Yep. My brother-in-law is that way.
That just blows my mind, really does.
Yeah.
But then the way that I can process data in my head blows their mind. So fair's fair.
That's why it's so fascinating. And, my catchphrase is, you are beautifully unique. Because out of my research, that's really the only conclusion I can come to, is that we can find some similarities here and there, but everybody's so beautifully different and unique. And I just I love that. Like I bask in it. I relish in it. It's what lights me up. It's what fascinates me. What am I going to hear today that I've never heard before? So I think that's a very cool aspect of it. All right. What impacts and benefits do you think having a silent and quiet mind has given you?
Well, it certainly made me very good at my job. I think we have to find our niche. And I think that's true of everyone. And understanding how your brain is different to other people. I really think we need to start looking at this sooner. Because, there was the disadvantage of not being able to remember history or literature. But had I known at the time what caused that, then I'd have been able to specialize a lot earlier in education rather than trying to flog a dead horse in the subjects that I was just never going to be able to master. Literally cannot do it. But I like my quiet mind. I do think that an inner monologue sounds like hell. I mean, why would you want someone second guessing everything you do? Why did we evolve that? It seems utterly pointless.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you could wave a magic wand and get rid of your aphantasia, would you do it?
Yeah. Oh, God, no. No. I like the way my brain is. I'm generally a happy, fairly relaxed person. And I like observing and living in the here, in the now. It has meant that things like that stupid interview question of where do you see yourself in 10 years? I mean, we've got to help people understand that those questions for some people just are nonsensical. But I think if people had just had a little more understanding of the breadth of variation of our brains, we'd understand people a lot more.
I agree.
So if I'm talking to someone who's just found out they have aphantasia, if they've lived a long life, they've got a lot of disabilities, but they've done okay, they're just like, oh, it's interesting. And then you've got other people who have always thought that everything about them was completely normal and average, and they're completely flummoxed. They don't know how to cope with suddenly accepting that they're different. I've never seen it that way.
A lot of people are like you and I, find it fascinating, but it's not a blow. It's not like this devastating thing. Where there are a lot of other people with aphantasia where it just devastates them. They just feel like they've missed out on something.
You literally see them online in the groups going through the stages of bereavement, the denial, the anger, the shock. You do what you can to help them, but we need to raise the awareness so that people don't see it necessarily as a bad thing.
All right, Kristin, that is pretty much it. Is there anything else you would like to talk about or say or ask me before we sign off?
No, I think I'm good. Thanks. Been fun talking to you. I hope you've liked the conversation.
I have enjoyed it immensely. Like I said before, you're a very interesting person. You have a lot of very cool experiences and very unique ways that your mind works. And I've really enjoyed listening to you try to explain it. And I've enjoyed trying to understand it. So I appreciate it.
Job done.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, follow, and engage with us. And share it with your friends and family as we continue to explore this fascinating subject. For additional information about this episode or Shane's Brain, check out the show notes. Thanks for listening to the Discovering Your Mind podcast. You are beautifully unique.